do that. Like I'm struggling right now at 40, to figure shit out. So I feel like it just, I don't know, there is definitely this ageism thing. And I feel like social media has made it worse.
Are you ready for the raw, unapologetic realities of reclaiming your life? Me too. So turn into the Takeover Unfiltered podcast hosted by, yours truly, Brianna Rooney, millionaire recruiter, and Taylor Bradley, the humble hustler. We're pulling back the curtain on our personal lives and sharing the ups, downs, and everything in between. From navigating relationships to juggling self-care routines, we are laying it all out on the table. You're welcome. We're all about taking control and making shit happen.
So expect raw, candid talks seasoned with some, of course, uncensored language. It's time to own your journey, embrace the chaos, and unleash your inner badass. So buckle up because we're about to take you on a wild ride to self-discovery and empowerment. But don't worry, we're still dishing on some valuable insights into the recruiting world. It's all about finding that balance between work and play, and we're here to show you how it's fucking done.
You ready to kick some ass and rewrite the rule book? Grab your favorite drink, cozy up, and join us for some real talk you are not going to want to miss. Hey, welcome to Takeover Unfiltered. So,
it's 20 today.
We are 20. We didn't even call each other. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm loving this. This is our first official episode without the talent in front of our podcast, which is big. Taylor, how you doing? How you feeling?
Doing good. Feeling good. Always love our recording days. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing great. I'm actually super excited about this. I feel like, when we made this announcement, it was a big deal because we were using this podcast essentially for an extension of business, really. And it was also because we wanted to just vent about what was going on in talent and recruiting and all of this shit. And it's fun to be able to be like, all right, let's just talk about whatever the fuck we want. One want it, give it real. And this is it's still about our lives and how we vibe and all of those things. But this is like all the other shit that goes, I feel like, with your career because you have to be whole, right? Like there's like that was something that we had struggled with. And I can't even remember if we did a podcast episode about this, but essentially like you have to change your definition of success. Yeah, as life changes because you change and all this other shit. So this is kind of like an extension of that. So I'm jazzed.
Yeah. And I mean, we have so much going on. We did talk about this a little bit. I think maybe we're introing, the change to the podcast, but there's so many highs and lows in life and so much is interwoven when you're having like professional highs. Maybe your personal life sucks. Like you never know. So we want to be able to talk to our audience about all of that, like everything that's going on, the personal stuff, the professional stuff, the good, the bad, because typically you only see one side. So we're like, yeah, let's show it all. Let's show it all.
I couldn't help but like open the curtain.
Yeah.
We're naked. It's a really good skit. Yeah.
So they're really
now what also is in this podcast, just like if you didn't hear our announcement, is we are still in recruiting. We still want some days more than others, right? But so we're still going to talk about stuff like that as it comes up. So definitely what we noticed too was behind the scenes, because this was on my YouTube, Millionaire Recruiter. We're actually having a new YouTube, so we're going to put that, to start following and let's let it rip. Because don't worry, you can still see us on video, just not on that channel. Doing favors over here. But where was I going with that? I don't even know.
Let's want them to see us because we talked about opening the curtain. You just wanted them to see us.
It's like, but yeah, we do.
But this episode is 40 is the new 70, and I'm sure everybody's like, what does that mean? But I feel like unless you've been living in a rock, you probably have under a rock, I should say, you probably have a general idea of what this means. And I love that today, this is normally an episode that we would have done or could have done when we were Talent Takeover Unfiltered. We could have done this from a professional standpoint, but I love that we get to also put a personal spin on this too, because 40 is the new 70 is definitely applicable in both professional and personal lives, I feel like, or I know it is in mine. And so how this kind of came about was I saw this article probably over a month ago now. I think it was on LinkedIn or somewhere, but I saw this article and it was just talking about, basically like 40 is the new 70 and how challenging it is for 40-year-olds, especially, 40-year-olds that are in this market that we're in that are some TA that have been affected. I know everybody's been affected by this TA and recruiting market. And so being in your 40s, which in the grand scheme of life is not that old,
Wow.
But it's crazy how people are really struggling to, get roles because everybody wants to hire these 20-year-olds, these 30-year-olds. And so, when you find yourself suddenly or unexpectedly unemployed at 40, and then you're going through this, job application process, interview process, and, even seeing it from a company standpoint internally and hearing things. And it's like people want to hire these young people. And I'm just like, what the fuck happened? Like 40 isn't even old. Like when did 40 was still young to me as of like 10 years ago, maybe not 20 years ago, whenever everybody used to use the analogy like, oh, he's like 40, she's like 40. That used to be like the old age, right? Kind of like well, you're like 12. There's these numbers that society uses.
Yeah, I think it's all relative to how old you are. So, I've been telling I'm turning 40 this year, right? And but I remember being really excited when I turned 30 because I was like, oh shit, because I used to think 30-year-olds were like the coolest. So when I was younger and I was hanging out with 30-year-old, I was stoked. Okay, like I was like, that shit's cool. Now I remember hearing 40 and they're like, fuck, that's old, right?
Yeah.
But then it was almost like roles were reversed and it was like, hey, actually now people are having their first baby at 40. Yeah. So it's like we're living longer, so 40 doesn't feel like that. I just read an article being like, oh, when you're 90, it's going to be like you're 40. Well, it's like, okay. We all know that's not true, right?
It's a little stretch. It's a little
bit stretch. I'm thinking of all the loose skin you'll have. But I think it's professionally that we're saying, like I just saw an article saying that the new retirement age is going to 70.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a contradicting subject where it's like, wait a minute, if we're now supposed to work until we're 70, yet 40 is the new 70, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I think about it like, I really do think one of the things social media has done is just put this like ideal in everybody's head of what everyone should look like. So you see 18-year-olds, right, on 18, 20-year-olds on Instagram wanting to look like they're 30, getting all of this work done. And then you see all of these 30, 40, 50-year-olds trying to get work done to look younger. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like this vicious cycle. But I definitely feel like in the world that we live in social media, where everybody's constantly comparing themselves and comparing each other, there is this ideal of what people are supposed to look like. And it's like they're supposed to look like that forever. And when I say people, I mean women. It's let's just call a spade a spade. It's really women.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. So over the weekend, my mom was in town, and it was for my aunt's. Well, it's more like her friend, but she feels like my aunt. Her 60th birthday.
Okay.
So we're going to this restaurant. We had like there's 8 of us, and there's this giant balloon thing of like 60, right? Like, yeah, it's an amazing display of balloons. God knows how much that thing was, right? Well, here's what's funny is in the same room was another 60-year-old's birthday, a woman. Okay. Uh-huh. And so my mom's or my aunt was like, oh my God, like she thought the balloons were for her. This is like this whole funny story. But the point is this 60-year-old woman, holy shit, she was banging. She clearly had a ton of work done, right? But I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, if I'm my aunt right now, I'm going to go cry in the corner. And it's kind of the difference of this is money or this is just preferences of people, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, like they did not look the same age whatsoever. And so it made me think of that. It's like, again, what society's bringing, what money brings, what different lifestyles bring. And the comparing, women comparing themselves on a regular, I mean, this is a whole other episode, really.
Yeah. Right. It really is. And it's like, I know you've probably seen those memes. It's like, it'll show a before and after of like a celebrity when they maybe first got their start to like a celebrity now. And it's like, it's like, you're not ugly, you're just broke or something like that. Because it's like, it's so true. It's like the work that they can have done and the amount of money and the services and things that are at the disposal of people that have money. You really can look super, super young, but that's not doable or realistic for the whole world. You know what I mean?
Average. Yeah. Yeah. And my aunt is good, by the way. But it was like, holy shit. Like, I wanted to go over there and be like, all right, tell me everything. Tell me everything you've gotten done. Like,
you're your doctors. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I even have, what we're going to do an episode on, something I'm really dying to talk about is what's makeup for? Who's it for? Is it for us personally, women, men, but so it goes back to the comparing shit. Who's plastic surgery for?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about plastic surgery and like I'll inevitably have more of it as I get older, like I know I will. It's just, I think it's so hard to see yourself get older. And then when society treats you a certain way, like going back to the professional side of it is, having heard the things that I've heard and, witnessed the things that I've witnessed, it absolutely is the case. Like people want to hire, and both of us are closer to being 40. So this is something we're absolutely feeling as well. But it's just crazy to me that, we're now on the other side of that, because I remember thinking for the longest time, I'm like, I was the youngest manager. I was the youngest whatever for the longest time. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're the old person. But I don't remember thinking, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't remember thinking like 40 was old in the workplace. But it's crazy to me how it's like, if you're relaunching your career, revising your career, transitioning your career, doing anything at the age of 40, people automatically assume like something's wrong. Like, well, what's wrong with that person? Like, why are they out here looking for a job at 40? It's like everybody expects you to just have your shit together at 40 or know what you're doing or being like in the career that you're going to be in the rest of your life at 40. You can't have like I know there's a midlife crisis, but you never hear about the midlife crisis. You hear about the man going and getting a mistress and a Ferrari and all of that stuff, but you don't hear like a midlife work crisis, of like, what am I doing? Yeah. I feel like that's what most people feel.
That's amazing. Midlife work crisis. That is so relatable. And I also think it's for a couple of reasons. We have imposter syndrome. Everyone like with the mental awareness and everything like that, that's been happening ever since COVID. We're saying, God, like we're starting to think about these things.
Yeah.
Now once you put labels on something, it's like, once you identify what something is, you're like, oh shit, this is what I have. It like feels better. Like I remember when I first started getting anxiety, I was like, what is this? I would just freak out about it and then naturally have more anxiety, right? Because I didn't know what it was. So I definitely think midlife crisis thing. I mean, a work crisis. I love that. That should be maybe its own episode. But I heard two other things. So one, the job hoppiness, like, we were used to, our generation before would never do that. Now it's like you stay at a job for 2 years, you're like, oh, wow, 5 years, like, holy shit, that's a 10-year,
Yeah.
And then one other thing I just saw was unbossing. Have you heard of this?
I have seen that terminology, but I don't remember what it means. But I know I've seen it.
It's the trend of getting rid of middle management. But from my perspective, I've actually seen manager, director, VP, C-suites. Those are the ones that seem to be having the biggest challenge. And then when you think about it, those are the ones that are probably 40 and up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that has to relate. That now we're wanting just doers, less managers. Mm-hmm. And that's who it's kind of getting rid of.
Well, and the other thing I was going to add to that is that I think, like we were around, our generation was around, if you're around age 40, you were around when technology and social media started being a thing. But I feel like everybody wants people these days that like, that's what they grew up in. They want this generation that is the TikToks. They want this generation that is the Instagrams and all of that stuff. Ours was really like the MySpace and then the Facebook and all of that stuff. But it's evolved so much since then. It's like they want people that have that experience in kind of every role. Like we've talked about that before, like them wanting certain things or employers wanting everybody to be a certain thing, even though they're doing different jobs in the organization. But I definitely think that's one, is that they want people to be, everybody to like know their way around social media. I'm seeing that more and more and more, or as I'm interviewing or having conversations, it's like there is an aspect to every job that is now like knowing your way around social media and how to use those platforms. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm the best at any of that. I'm definitely not. It's something that honestly I have, Instagram, I have Facebook, but it's not something that I have like intentionally made a point to get to intimately know TikTok or how to use it, or I'm on there looking at stuff. I actually don't even have TikTok. So it was, I feel like that's another thing that I'm like, we just have kind of gone, like, it's almost like they're skipping over our generation. It's like our generation is kind of becoming obsolete and they just want to go straight to like these young kids, or it's like, and it scares me because I'm like, if I'm in, still just maybe not in something I love by the time I'm 45, is like, am I fucked? Am I just shit out of luck, as far as like a job? Because it's like, if I definitely know that from an employer perspective, and I'm not saying I agree with it, by the way, but people that are not in an established career or like doing what they're doing or with the company at the age, like you can't be job hopping around at 45 because there's just less opportunity for you. There's less opportunity at 40. Like they want people that are fresh grads that, or maybe have, 5 years of experience. It's like the asking for people that have 10, 15 years of experience. You don't really see that on a ton of jobs anymore.
Okay. So my mind's going in a couple different things. So just this morning, I actually read it's not fresh grads that are getting jobs. Actually, it's down 5.3%.
Okay.
I literally just this morning I posted on this. So it's definitely, I feel like it's like the 3 to probably 10 at the most years that are like the strong in the market right now. That's how I would probably look at it. But I think we should do an episode on how to reinvent yourself. which could be super interesting. I almost want to maybe we do this with you. Okay, like yeah. But okay, so I don't want to go on a tangent. But I'm thinking of I was at the bar a few days ago, like such a drunk. I know.
Oh, wait, are you trying to give me a makeover? Is this a fucking makeover episode?
No, it's a work reinvent yourself. But yeah, no. But okay, so I'm at the bar and I'm sitting next to this old guy. And he's probably...
But how old was he? You're calling him an old guy.
Probably 70. He's probably
okay.
70. Okay. But he is already retired. So he's been retired. And I guess, like all old men, all old white men, they golf. So he started getting like super into golf and all this stuff. And he really wanted to like go pro when he was younger. So he's telling me his long ass story. Well, long story short, he makes a YouTube of the perfect swing. All of a sudden, 2 years later, he has 25,000 subscribers and now he's coaching like via his YouTube. It like just blew up. And I was like, you actually can reinvent yourself at any age. You just have to go out and do it. But you're right. He's using technology to do it. And here's the other thing. He's struggling. He's asking me, because, I coach entrepreneurs now. If anyone doesn't know, hit me up. But he's asking me all these questions, right? He's like, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this in business. I've never owned my own business. Da, 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 da. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, fuck, like there's a lot of work with this guy, but he obviously has made something of himself the last 2 years. So it's kind of interesting. And he gives me his old ass business card where I'm like, and that's the problem. It's like, hold on, let's fix some stuff. Let's get some technology. Use your phone to do this. This looks awful. Like the branding and all of that stuff. But again, he's making a living off of it. He's getting sponsors and all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. I mean, like my initial question is like, who showed him how to use YouTube? Like what made him go and just create this YouTube? Like, does he have grandkids?
No, he said he was just bored. And he would always watch golf stuff on YouTube. So he was like someone that was watching these channels and just decided to do it. His wife left him, was cheating on him. Like he told me the whole story.
Oh, wow. You just never hear about you don't even hear about typically like 50-year-olds 50 plus using YouTube. Like YouTube so that's interesting to me that he just took it upon himself to like start. You can obviously find out how to do anything or see how to do anything on YouTube. It's just not usually the first place like an older generation like that goes or knows to go, I know.
No, it's super interesting. So then it makes me think about, wait a minute, is there a market out there for 70 plus, people? Because it's like, oh, that's funny. I mean, think about like, I don't know, some videos of grandmas dancing all crazy or like wild, right? Like people like to watch that shit because you don't see it a lot. So it's kind of an interesting take.
It is. And I think, his story is probably unique because you're probably not going to find... Yeah, you're probably not going to find many 70-year-olds that are going to like launch a career in a brand new space doing something they've never done before and find success in it. Like that sounds terrible, but I mean, when I'm 70, I will be able to do that. Like I'm struggling right now at 40, to figure shit out. So I feel like it just, I don't know, there is definitely this ageism thing. And I feel like social media has made it worse. And I feel like the expectations that people have or employers have. And I'm actually not seeing a lot of the 10 plus years of experience required on job descriptions. I'm actually seeing like comparable levels that I've seen in the past, but at much lower, like you need X number of years of experience. And it's typically less than 10 for a director. I've even seen like less than 10 for a VP. And I'm like, what are they going for? And it's because and you see lots of younger people that are like VPs of companies and stuff like that. I think startups obviously help that, people fast tracking, but I definitely think it's like they want somebody that, knows their way around this social media business because social media impacts like so many other aspects of business. It impacts marketing. It impacts actually everything. They want everybody to brand on social media. When you work for large companies, like especially household names, they want everybody to kind of be a brand ambassador, even if they work in accounting. And so I definitely think that there's just this younger generation that's coming in. And I just don't remember 40, whatever, 10 years ago, I don't remember 40 feeling as old in society as it feels today.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You brought up also the brand ambassador thing. So
yeah,
we did an episode, it's not out yet, but about what I use now for my branding and marketing, which is Pager. And what's really interesting about that is they have this whole dashboard on how on KPIs for employees. Yeah, based off of brand, based off of content. Like that's wild. And that goes to your point that they expect everyone to be brand ambassadors now that work with them, because really, that's how you stay lean. And that's the new way of marketing. Yeah. Is getting influencers and stuff like that. we saw, everyone knows like, hey, we're there for that. Right.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so that is really interesting. Something else I've noticed on job descriptions, curious if you've seen this, is, and I think it goes to the age, is everyone's wanting people that thrive in chaos, that embrace failure.
Yeah.
All of those buzzwords, it's very like that can pivot really easily. Well, it's because there's so much work right now that's not very sustainable. We've seen layoffs, we've seen all this shit happen. And the companies or the people that have survived that stuff typically have been the ones that thrive in that kind of environment.
Well, yeah, and that also goes back to that also goes back to like what they expect as far as like what you hear whenever there is ageism in the workplace, where it's like, well, so and so when they're at that age, they're too set in their ways, like, and people say that, with regards to 40-year-olds, 40 plus, like it's just crazy that could be, I don't know. I'm just like already struggling with it. Like on a personal note, I'm already struggling with this. Just that everybody is expected to look 30, even if you're 20, 25, like everybody, there is this like stigma. Every woman, I should say, is supposed to look like they're 30. And because of the plastic surgery and all the treatments and all this stuff that is at people's fingertips, even when you're 50, you're expected to look 30. Take J-Lo, for example. J-Lo doesn't look like a 50, what is she, 54? She doesn't look like that. Like there's society is changing the expectation of women even further to what we're supposed to look like. So it's like, we're supposed to look a certain way and to compete with these 20 and 30-year-olds. It just like blows my mind. And then we have to compete with you in the workplace too, because we've got too much experience, or maybe are not going to be the social media experts, or maybe not going to be the people, are going to be the people that are labeled like, oh, they're too old, they're set in their ways. And so this just like, these are the thoughts that race around my head all the time of like, what is society doing to us? Like what is it turning us into, and our expectations for, and I'm just going to say it for women. Like I know that this happens to men in the workplace too, as far as age. I'm not going to discredit that, but I definitely think, especially whenever you're talking about marketing or something that's very forward facing or, client facing or front facing, they want like young, pretty girls. And it's just like, it's just unattainable.
Yeah. I mean, we've even had clients ask us for, very inappropriate, illegal things around that. So we won't go there. But on a side note, I have to just make fun of men for a second, because what's funny is we're talking about how like women have to keep looking younger and younger. Have you not noticed that even like guys in high school or in their early 20s, they now look like my dad did when he was 40, like like with the weird mustaches and stuff like that. And like, I don't know. I don't like it at all. I feel like we're getting prettier, they're getting uglier. That's my I want to talk about ageism, because I had someone reach out to me the other day and was like, she was probably, I would say, I guess just based on her picture, who knows, right? Maybe in her 60s. Mm-hmm. And she was like, hey, I'm looking for a new job. I just got back. Like, I forget like why she was out of work, but it was her choice. And so now she wants to get back. She has to work again. And she's like, I am realizing that there's a lot of ageism right there. I said, there is. However, you're not doing yourself a favor. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, your LinkedIn photo is blurry and like it doesn't, like the quality is just awful, right? So let's fix that. And then your LinkedIn almost looks like you don't even have, like you haven't been working for like 20 years. Whether or not, and it wasn't true. It hadn't been that long, but it's like your LinkedIn is like, looks like it's literally someone closed it. So it's like, how do you expect a company to like look at you and you're just looks like you're out of the game. You're not innovative. So yeah, like all of the branding stuff like that, all of really, really, really matters. And that's the only way. I mean, I think the only way to combat some of the ageism right now is probably take dates off, is to, brand the shit out of yourself to show that you'd use AI. Like there's all sorts of stuff, but you have to get ahead of it for sure.
Yeah. I would say like all of that. I mean, all of that should be done anyway for just anybody, regardless of what age they are. You need to have like a third photo. Yeah. But I think, she's probably like exactly what the whole point of this episode, what we're talking about, is she's trying to enter the workforce and she's competing probably for the same job as 20 and 30-year-olds. And so, it's like, I do wonder, and I fear this, like, what am I going to do if I'm in that situation ever? Because I do think, look at the direction that we're already going now. I'm 40 and I feel old, and I feel like I feel like I'm experiencing what this woman experiences. So I can't even imagine, whenever you actually are 60, if you're not close to retiring or, which is crazy because you said that like, you're seeing that we're going to work till 70, which is like, well, how can we work till 70 if we can't get jobs because people don't want to hire people that are older? It's like, you have to be in whatever job you're going to be in by like 50 and stay in that job for 20 years, or it's going to be hard for you to get another one. You know, it's like, this is the kind of society that we're in right now.
Yeah. So how do we help? What do you do? Or
Yeah.
us like you listeners, tell us like what have you seen? Are we like completely like out there right now and no one has seen this? Like what's going on?
I'm sure our listeners have seen it or somebody's experienced it. I don't know that there's an answer of what you do. Like, how do you solve a problem for all of society that is like, it's a problem that you experience in personal life and professional life, you know? Like when they go, think about a club, you know, when you see in, what is that movie where Knocked Up, you know, where they go and they're waiting in line, they're like, you're like, you know, you're like and they're letting all these young girls in, and then and they're both beautiful, by the way. Obviously, one's pregnant, but they're both stunning. And you're like, and they're 40 and they can't get into the club because they're like the old women. I'm like, that's what the workforce feels like right now, is you can't get in. And it's like, you're the old person with regards to social media and everything. You're kind of in this weird age in the middle where you are considered too old for things, but yet in the grand scheme of life, like 40 isn't old. And I even think, and this will be a whole other episode, but I'm like, why does shit start falling apart for women why does perimenopause and things like that start happening in your 30s? Like, why, out of all the shit we already have to deal with, why does all this stuff happen so early in the grand scheme of how long life can be? Why does all of this stuff, it feels like it shouldn't happen until much, much older.
Yes, that is definitely an episode on our list because I feel as if I'm entering that right now and I'm freaking the fuck out. And on my guide next month. So we'll see. But what's interesting is, and this will definitely be a different episode, is our society as a whole is definitely catering to Gen Z.
Yeah.
So there was this whole list came out that said, what has Gen Z decided they're not going to do anymore or they don't like? It was like this whole thing. It was like, first of all, why do we decide that? Or who decided that Gen Z rules the show, right? I don't know. But one of them was that they don't pay to get into places anymore. So that's actually funny that you brought up the whole bar. But like, that's what they've decided. Nope, not doing that. You know, so it is interesting. And, you know, on a side note, I actually just had a big training session, you know, when I was visiting you about how to basically sell to Gen Z, how to sell to the next generation is super important. I think that this kind of goes to that. It's like, if we're not understanding them as a whole and understanding the trends and things that they want, we're not selling to them. Yeah, it's like we do have to start investing in study, you know, essentially. Hey, like we don't have to be out of the game. I think it definitely feels sometimes, you know, as we get older, it's like that we are, or scared that we are, or who knows, right? And I think also when you read an article, you're like, shit, you know, I was thinking this and someone just wrote about it, you know, it's like that shit's hard too. So
it is.
I love that you wanted to talk about this. It's great.
Yeah. And then I know we're at time, so I'll go into our broke to boss tip, which is kind of like, also, I want our listeners to give us a tip too. Like, what are you guys seeing, like you said? But I think you kind of touched on it with regards to, you know, knowing what Gen Z wants and knowing what these employers want. And it's also good to think about, like, I mean, oftentimes if you go look at somebody on LinkedIn and see who's the hiring manager or who's head of TA or whatever, you're going to see somebody really young. And that's been off-putting to a lot of people that I've spoken to, is like, okay, so I'd be working for somebody that's 20 years younger than me. And it's like, okay, well, go and look up whoever you're working for and kind of see, okay, then I know I'm going to have to cater my responses, my responsibilities. Like, I'm going to have to learn things that a Gen Zer would know. And, you know, we talked about this. You and I talked about this. I'm struggling with that. I got to learn all the ins and outs of social media, everything a Gen Zer would know. So I think you've got to cater your skill. You got to learn that stuff. You got to learn AI. You have to learn all of it and embrace it. And this is me. I have to practice what I preach on that. I've got to lean in and learn all of this stuff. But then on, you know, a personal level, like if we were going to give somebody advice, the only advice that I could give, and I need to do a better job about it as well, but it just goes down to a money thing or boils down to a money thing, is like, just take care of yourself, you know, like Botox, we're big advocates of that. Botox, facials, all of that stuff. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of your skin. I absolutely will be getting a facelift and all that stuff. So I'm all for that. So I'm an plastic surgery advocate. So if anybody, sorry if anybody just thought, yeah. Oh my God, we love that. We would love that. Give us all the free Botox. But like, even Botox isn't enough at a certain point. No. But it's also boils down to, you know, and I think, you know, telling the story that you did about your, the aunt and the other lady, it's like, her face and neck and all of that may look great. I didn't see this person, but I'm just thinking too, whenever I know you. And so I know when you say somebody looks great, I'm sure her body was great. I'm sure she was bugged out.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think it's like all of those things, do what you can to take care of yourself, because I mean, the ugly truth of it is society is judging us. They are. And more so for women. We are absolutely being judged. Like the days of just like letting yourself go. And I'm sure you guys have seen the memes where it's like what 40 used to look like in 1980 versus what 40 looks like now. It's like, it is crazy. It's, you know, we have to keep up with the trends, but we all struggle with it. Go easy on yourself. And if you want to bitch about it, reach out to us.
Let's have you on the show.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I think also it's like, do what feels good, right? You know, it's like, you don't have to beat yourself up about things, but it's like, hey, if you feel good, what you're doing, keep doing it. If you don't, fucking change it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
change it. Period.
Change it.
Done.
Do something about it. Whatever it is, do something about it. But yeah, no, it's a struggle right now. And that's where it's like, I don't have the answer. You don't have the answer. We're going through this at the same time. We're going through this together. So I'd love to hear from our listeners, like anything that they've done to kind of combat this, or a situation where they felt like they were up against Gen Zers and they came on the other side of it as far as for a job or for a man or whatever it is, you know, which is the other thing we have to, you know, as women, that's a whole other episode.
We got lots of episodes, y'all.
We got lots of episodes. We got lots of shit to talk.
Okay, so now that it's out there and we're excited, this is our new take. This is what's going on. We're taking over lives, you know, one topic at a time. We want to hear from you. We want to know, like, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to be on as a guest? What interesting shit do we want to talk about, vent about, have advice on, like, whatever. Let's let it rip.
Love it.
See you next Tuesday.
Thanks, y'all.
Hey, before you jump off, if you have enjoyed today's episode, we would love it if you could take a moment to rate us on your favorite podcast platform, because your ratings help other awesome listeners like you find us. It's quick, it's easy, and it really means the world to us. We have links to Apple Podcasts in the description. Just open it up on your phone and scroll down to the bottom and leave an awesome review.